As we go into verse 4, this all comes to a head. And here's the promise of God, friends. If you will embrace this truth and love him in faithful obedience, you will overcome the world. I want you to think about that, because so many of us have been taught to cooperate with the world. So many of us have been taught to go ahead and compromise with the world. But the Word of God says that if you will stand on his truth, if you will love him and walk in faithful obedience, you will overcome the world. One of the greatest names in the Bible given to Christians is that of overcomers. I ask you, do you identify with being called by God an overcomer? I pray that you have. And if you have, then I pray today you will come to understand the definition of what that is. You see, in the Greek, overcomer is nikao. Nikao. It means to defeat. It means to have victory over. It means to conquer. Christians, listen to verse 4 of 1 John 5 and put this in context. For whatever or whoever is born of God overcomes the world. And this is the victory that has overcome the world, our faith. Friends, do you know this place? Are you an overcomer? Or are you a compromiser? Friends, I spent a long time in my life negotiating with God. When I knew I was called to overcome, but instead I was living out a negotiation. I was compromising. I was overwhelmed by the world, not overcoming the world. Nobody told me these truths. I didn't have the Word of God shared with me as straightforwardly and as bluntly as I pray you are here today. Friends, there is a faith that requires the objective truth and the subjective love that comes from deep inside you and me. And with that comes the promise of God that you can and will be an overcomer. You see, it's more than just your theology. It's the anthropology of how you see people, how you see yourself. It's not just what you believe, it's how you behave. It's who you are, not just what you do, but who you become. Again, as Francis said, if you and I are not knowing the sting of persecution, it's because we're avoiding it. I want you to think about it. If you live sold out for Jesus, what would that look like? I promise you it will be involving some suffering. I promise you, you will know persecution. I've told you many times before, you'll stop being invited to cookouts. It will come at a tremendous cost. I know. Let's pick up our cross daily and let's follow Jesus the Christ. Let's be followers who follow. Let's be lovers who actually love. Let's be obedient believers who live out obedience in our belief. And here's the thing. If you and I will, here's the promise. Not that you'll get the Cadillac, not that you'll get the perversions that the pimps of the prosperity gospel are selling. What you'll get is the blessing of God, makarios. You'll be a blessed one of God. And it will be harder and better every single day. That you can get from the Word of God.